Welcome back to the Where Is Job podcast. This is Memphis X. It is November 15th, 2020, and it is, basketball eve. Today we will be talking about the top 5 picks for the Grizzlies at number 40 and the fact that basketball transactions will be allowed starting tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Time.
Where is Job?
Here is Morant turning on the burners. Oh my! Wow! What a ridiculous finish from Ja Morant.
Where is Job?
Morant down the lane, lays it up. It is! Holy cow! With 7/10 of a second, Ja Morant.
Where is Job?
Morant with a running start. Elevate! Oh, it dunks! Oh my goodness! Ja Morant.
Like I said, this is Memphis X with the Where's Job podcast. And the first business that we're going to get to is the new season starting and the trade season beginning. It was reported this morning by Adrian Wojnarowski that trade season begins Monday, the 16th at 11 a.m. Central Time. The moratorium will be lifted. And they also got a tentative schedule out for the rest of the season. Of course, December 22nd is opening night. The All-Star break is March 5th through 10th. There won't be an All-Star game. May 16th, the season ends. May 17th through the 21st is the play-in tournament for the 7 through 10 seeds. May 22nd is the first round of the playoffs. June 7th is the conference semifinals. June 22nd is the conference finals. And July 8th through the 22nd is the NBA finals. The salary cap will be $109.1 million, and the luxury tax level will be $132.6 million for this season. They have some projected numbers for the future salary cap, but not going to really get into that because it really doesn't matter, because I think those numbers are going to be changing. It's going to be fluid depending on how COVID goes, how fans in the stands go, how even if this season goes, because unlike the bubble, we don't know how this grand experiment is going to go with the season. The season might be over sooner than we think. The COVID cases start breaking out. Teams have to start shutting down players and facilities and all this kind of stuff. We don't know what's going to happen. So it's going to be interesting. I'm trying not to get too excited because of the COVID spiking around the country. You don't know exactly how this is going to work out because college basketball, college football, they're catching hell right now because, they're getting stoppages. Teams are shutting down. 1 or 2 players or staff members are getting the positive tests, and things have got to shut down when that happens. So it's going to be interesting to see. The NBA has protocols. Of course, the NBA is operating under a lot of goodwill due to having no positive cases during the bubble. But outside the bubble, this time you don't know what's going to happen. Now, although there hasn't been any news really about the Grizzlies transactions and what's going on with the Grizzlies, there was like a little news about a European point guard that the Grizzlies were supposedly interested in signing this year. But, I've learned since the Pau Gasol days not to really, really pay attention to European reports because they misinterpret or, shoot the gun on, a little bit too fast on things. So I will wait until that is reported by either a reputable or more reputable European source or a stateside source or one of the NBA regulars that usually reports information. But we'll see how that works out. Interesting nonetheless. Now, the moratorium, of course, is lifting tomorrow, but we've already had a trade. It seems like as soon as Woj announced that the moratorium was lifting, he was reporting on a trade. And the trade is between the world champion Los Angeles Lakers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City is beginning their teardown of their roster. So, we're going to see how that goes. They will be sending Dennis Schroeder to the Los Angeles Lakers for Danny Green and the number 28 pick on draft night. The Lakers have to wait till draft night to deal their 2020 first round pick because they owe picks to the New Orleans Pelicans, of course, from the Anthony Davis deal. So they have to wait until then. So that trade will be on hold, but it's basically agreed to in principle. And some other interesting tidbits that came out about that was that Milwaukee was also in talks to acquire Dennis Schroeder for Eric Bledsoe, and I'm guessing the 24th pick. And I'm guessing that Oklahoma City decided that they prefer to get the expiring contract of Danny Green over the 3 years left of Eric Bledsoe, and I think that players like Eric Bledsoe, and I will put him in the category with Russell Westbrook, these guys are getting a very bad rap on, especially on Twitter and in the podcast sphere about, their worth around the league. And to me, these guys have maybe a limited worth in the playoffs, especially as you get up in levels in the playoffs. And I'm not even sure about Westbrook, but, these players who can't shoot or do not shoot well or are not willing shooters kind of seem to get a bad reputation about their worth in the playoffs. But what some teams got to remember, especially some teams in the NBA, they have to remember is for a player to disappoint in the playoffs, you have to first make it to the playoffs. So a lot of these teams that have struggled to make the playoffs, get in the playoffs whatsoever, at all, they have to remember that it's essential to get into the playoffs. A team like, I don't know what Minnesota is going to do with their number one pick or their 17th pick, what their plans are. But a team like Minnesota could really use somebody like Eric Bledsoe, defensively next to D'Angelo, in the backcourt. He would really help their defense a lot and get things moving. He's a really good regular season player. I mean, it was just last season, that he was a borderline all-star. So, this thing about Eric Bledsoe not being worth money is kind of, bloated. I think he would be a good fit for a team like Minnesota. A team that could really use their floor being raised up to playoff level to start bringing in some people with a good, defensive mindset, alongside Cat and D'Lo. But like I said, they might have plans on selecting a point guard with the number one pick or a defensive point guard at number 17. So we don't know how that is, but they do have a salary that they need to, I think it's like $17 million, James Johnson, that they really need to move and get a player that they can really perform well in their rotation. Unlike everybody else, I don't believe that it's mandatory for Minnesota to make the playoffs this year, but they still need to build that foundation of a playoff team. That's why I think a guy like Eric Bledsoe could really help them. Not that they're going to make the playoffs this year, but they still they need to start building a 9-man rotation, and they need to be concentrating on making the playoffs next season. in the 82-game season that's coming next year, and he would be a good part of their rotation, even if they're going to select somebody like LaMelo Ball at number 1, because he would be a great third guard to be able to come off the bench and play with LaMelo and D'Lo, off the bench, and give them a solid foundation at the guard position, offensively and defensively. And him and I guess it'd kind of be redundant with him and what's that? I forgot the little guard name. Okagi coming off the bench. 2 defensive stoppers coming off the bench, giving people hell. Off the bench for 20 to 28 minutes a night. What else we got? We got December 21st is the deadline for Supermax and rookie extensions. And the format for the play-in tournament, which could have a big effect, could be really meaningful for Memphis in 2 respects. The West is going to be real hard this year. It's going to be really difficult. And of course, the Grizzlies do own a first-round pick from the Utah Jazz that is reverse lottery protected, which means if Utah finishes in the playoffs, the Grizzlies do not get that pick. But if Utah finishes 6 through 14, I think, or 7 through 14 in the lottery, the Grizzlies do get their pick. So we have the play-in tournament. Let's say the play-in tournament is kind of set up like this. The 7 and 8 seeds play each other, and the winner of that automatically gets the 7th seed. The 9th and 10th seeds play each other, and the winner of that gets a chance to play the loser of the 7-8 game. So if Utah finishes in 7th or 8th place in the West, there still is a chance for the Grizzlies to get their pick if they lose, let's say, 2 of the play-in tournament games and finish in 9th, they will be finishing in 9th place. So the Grizzlies would get that pick, which would probably be the number 14 pick. And that pick would be very valuable in this 2021 draft, which is stacked and loaded. So it seems like, things are coming together for Memphis, and it would be hilarious if we ended up playing Utah in that play-in game for the tournament, and we could beat them and get their 14th pick, and we ended up with the 15th pick or something like that. That would be funny. Although most Grizzly fans are probably hoping for better than the 14th and 15th pick in the 2021 draft. I would be happy with the 14th and 15th pick in the 2021 draft. So when we come back, I'm going to talk about who I think the Grizzlies should pick at number 40. All right, now we're going to talk about the 2020 NBA draft, which is Wednesday, November 18th. We have the draft coming up. Of course, the Grizzlies have 1 pick in the draft, the number 40th overall pick. And what's lucky for the Grizzlies is this draft is pretty deep as far as role players go. Should be a very, very viable role player opportunity at number 40 pick. Haven't heard anything about the Grizzlies trying to move up. Haven't heard anything about the Grizzlies trying to acquire another pick or anything like that. So we'll see what happens on draft night. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my top 5 picks at number 40 for the Grizzlies. And what I'm basing this off of is the projections of the ESPN latest mock draft, which I think came out about 3 or 4 days ago. And in this mock draft, some of my favorites that are not going to be available, like Xavier Tillman, Tyler Bay, Robert Woodard, Jordan Noir, Isaiah Joe, Trey Jones, Cassius Winston. All these guys were picked off the board according to the ESPN mock draft. They are off the board before the Grizzlies pick at 40. So None of those guys were available, so it's not like I'm leaving them out or I'm forgetting them or anything like that. And I'll just talk about a few things that I think that the Grizzlies need. I think the Grizzlies need, of course, shooting on the wing, as always. We've been looking for that for about, since Mike Miller's first stint here. So we need shooting on the wing, as always. We need some added athleticism, wings with a little bit more size and athleticism, and maybe a third point guard, and just anybody that could be a long-term development project. And the reason why I say that is because we have to remember that our two best players, Ja and Jaren, are both just got legal. They just became legal. They're both 21 years old. And if you have any inkling of how the NBA works, these guys probably won't be reaching their, we have a chance to make the finals or conference final stage for 3 to 4 seasons. So whoever they pick in this draft will be one of the first people, besides Brandon and, maybe Jonte Porter, depends on how he's worked. But I'll say, other than Brandon Clark, will be one of the first people that have a chance to be in the rotation in 3 to 4 seasons. Most of the other guys are going to be veterans. They'll be shuffled in and out. They'll be dealt. Probably won't have a lasting time here 3 to 4 years from now when the Grizzlies are conference finals and finals contenders. And I'm not just talking about playoffs. I'm talking about conference finals when they reach the level that the Denver Nuggets are right now. And if you look at the ages of the Denver Nuggets main player, they're 24, 25 years old. So this is what we're talking about. Now, things may change because Ja Morant is a damn good player, and he could be on the Luka trajectory where he's a freaking superstar as early as next season, and everything gets pushed up. But I'm not anticipating that. I'm not going to just put all my eggs in Ja Morant on the Luka Doncic, development path of where he's a superstar in year 2, borderline MVP candidate in year 2. But, stranger things have happened. Ja's a hard worker. He's been working all season. So you never know what can happen. But we'll get to it. My top 5 at 40 for the Memphis Grizzlies. At number 5, I have Mr. Mason Jones out of Arkansas, a 6'5" combo guard. If you haven't heard his story, he's a guy who was like 270 pounds his senior year in high school. I think he went and did a year of prep school, maybe. I know he went to community college for a year. He went to Arkansas last year. He was kind of a bit player, but this year he was SEC Player of the Year, one of the leading scorers in the SEC. Phenomenal scorer on the college level. The only thing that could be holding him back, the only thing that's holding him back from being a top pick in this draft is his athleticism. And like I said, he was 265, 270 pounds, 4 or 5 years ago. So he slimmed up. He's about 205 now, supposedly in real good shape. Maybe has some increased athleticism. So, you really can't tell. These guys have had 7-8 months to work on their body, get in shape, get in phenomenal shape. So I guess it'll depend on what kind of worker he is. And does he have any added athleticism left in his body? I think his brother and sisters were both high-level college players, so he's got some bloodlines. So we'll see, what kind of, player he'll be in the NBA. But the only reason he's not hired, because I know there's a big Mason Jones hive among Grizz Twitter. The only reason he's not hired is because of that lack of athleticism and, questions about his defensive ability on the next level. But he could be a great off-the-bench scorer for the Grizzlies long term. He's 22 years old, so, he'll be just hitting his prime when the Grizzlies should be ready. And one of the things I also want to say about the reason why I said these guys will have a chance, I expect the Grizzlies to use part of their MLE to lock up this 40th pick for 3 to 4 years, to get their bird rights and be able to keep them long term if they work out. At number 4, we have Cassius Stanley, freshman shooting guard out of Duke University. Cassius Stanley is a nuclear athlete on the wing. He's 6'6", not overly long. I think he has 6'7" wingspan or something like that. He's not real long, but he's one of the best athletes in the draft. Really gets up. He can shoot. He's already a good shooter. The question is his creation. He wasn't used on the ball a lot at Duke. So we have to, it's some questions about is he going to be able to create on the NBA level? Is he going to be good enough offensively and defensively to be a full-time starter? That's why he's fallen into the second round. But, these are some questions about him. Number 3, Devon Dotson, combo guard out of Kansas. Would probably be number 1 on our list if Chris Wallace was still here. You guys know how that works. Chris Wallace loved his Kansas players. But Devon Dotson, speedy point guard out of Kansas. Can get to the rim. Nobody's going to be able to stay in front of him. Will be a good guy to, long term keep the pace up that John Morant will be setting in the 10 to 15 minutes that John Morant's going to be on the bench. He'd be a good backup point guard. The only question is, his finishing ability and his shooting ability. So, he's just 21 years old, though, so he's got, chance to learn and get better. Let's see, that was number 3. Number 2, Paul Reed out of DePaul. Paul Reed is 6'9", combo forward with a 7'2" wingspan, a phenomenal 9'1.5" reach. Probably one of the best defenders in the draft. Very big, very long. He is the kind of guy that you really, really like in the playoffs. The guy that you could put on these big wings and big ball handlers like Luka. Well, I don't think we'll need him for LeBron in the playoffs, but you never know how fast it is because we're going to make it in the playoffs. But these big wings like Luka, these bigger wings that are coming into the game, and the classes that are coming behind the 2021 and the 22 draft, Durant, these kind of guys, these big rangy wings, he's the kind of guy that you can put on them. He can also play a little small ball 5 next to Jaren, or 4, whatever you want to call it. He can play small ball 5 next to Brandon Clark off the bench with that standing reach. Very long. He's a little bit skinny, 219 pounds. So he's going to have to put on some muscle. But, his defensive acumen is not to be questioned at this time. And what we want to know is he going to be able to create at all on the NBA level, and can he shoot at the NBA level? And like I said, it depends on what his role is going to be on the team. And the thing about the Grizzlies, the presence of Jaren Jackson and Brandon Clark's ability to shoot gives us a little leeway on what we can do with the backup 4-5 on Memphis. So, that's kind of why I like Paul Reed for Memphis. But getting somebody who can't shoot, everybody in Memphis is getting kind of tired of drafting guys who have little to no shooting potential. So that's why at number 1, I have Jameis Ramsey, combo guard out of Texas Tech. This is another guy who's a really, really great athlete. Was one of the best high school players in Texas. He's only 19 years old, which is why he's at the top of my list. I think he has a lot of room to grow. His defensive awareness is not that great. but he was a good shooter. I think he shot 42% from three. Real good athlete, real good athlete. Like I said, some creation potential. The problem is his defensive awareness needs to pick up a little bit, and we can see where he can go from there. But like I said, this is a long-term bet, and if he's available at 40, it's very, very rare that you see somebody this young, this athletic, and that can shoot this well that would be available at, pick number 40. So ESPN now has him going 45 to the Orlando Magic, But like I said, from about 20 to about 50 in this draft, these guys are pretty much interchangeable. They're all potential guys. It's a lot of bigs in the end of the first round, beginning of the second round. A lot of bigs, that since big men are being de-emphasized, that are going in that area. A lot of older point guards, that look like premium backup point guard with different skills, pluses and minuses and things like that. So you have a lot of different ways this draft can fall at 40. And like I said, one of those first guys that I was mentioning that I said that were going to be gone by 40 or projected to be gone by 40 in this mock draft, guys like Xavier Tillman, Robert Woodard, Jordan Noir, Tyler Bay, Isaiah Joe, Trey Jones, Cassius Winston, even guys like Vernon Carey and Daniel Oturo, and other guys like Reggie Perry, Peyton Pritchard. Any of these guys could be available at number 40, and it's just going to be a matter of, what's your taste and what do you think of them, long term, and how their fit is, around Ja, Jaren, and Brandon Clark. So that is going to be it for this episode of the Where's Ja podcast. We're going to come to you again tomorrow with some more about the 2020 draft, and what I'm going to look at is probably about 4 or 5 guys I think the Grizzlies should maybe trade up for or trade one of their pieces for, and who should they trade or what should they trade and what should they be looking for. But that's tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Remember to share this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on. Share this podcast, and if you're on Apple, leave a review or a 5-star rating. Thank you very much. This is Memphis X with the Where's Ja podcast. Peace.